Well, hello everyone. I do believe it says that we are now live. So, how are you Friday night? Hope everyone is well. And we tried this last week, and the gremlins were restless. So, we're going to do it this week. I'll reintroduce my guest, Karen, who goes by the Queen of Quartz. And Karen, so good to see and hear you again.
I'm going to have to shut this down, I think, Lane, here. Nope.
Okay. Hey, Brian, how are
Can you
you?
can you still see me and
Yeah.
hear me now?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I I got the delay again, so I had to shut something down. So I had to
Okay.
shut down the other site, so I can't see chat. So I'll have to leave that for now.
Did you mute on chat on the when you're on there? You have to mute the sound on the live broadcast. That's probably where you're
Mm,
getting your feedback.
right, right. That's fine. I can see you and hear you, and hope everybody can hear me fine.
They
Can they?
can. They
Oh,
can,
perfect,
everyone.
perfect. Well, hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here, and we don't have too much of a delay, and everything's working great. It's kind of dark where I am. I'm in the mountains still. I'm just in a little cabin up in a loft where I have my system. So if anything happens, it could be just the internet, or because we don't even have cell phone service where I am actually. So where should we start? I'm the Queen of Quartz. And the journey with this channel and meeting with everybody here started about 6 months ago. And I think I'll start there, Wayne.
Okay.
The journey started in the winter time, believe it or not, on the lunar eclipse around January. And I started watching Rex Bear's site for some reason. It popped up because I tried not to use the internet too much. And so I started watching Rex Bear, and we'll get into some of the things he's talked about, which I thought was interesting. And so I kept watching. But then one night, there was this man on. His name was R. Wayne Steiger. My goodness, on Rex Bear. And he was talking about AI and technology and about how the internet was now our God and about the Ethernet and how that whole thing came about. And I thought, yes, this is the first time I've heard somebody actually talk about it in that respect. And I thought, I need to come on and tell people my story and how it all connects together, and with the crystals, of course, because I actually helped roll out that technology.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
yes, with you, I've probably been in the technology field, Wayne, probably as long as you.
Yeah.
So we'll start.
A young woman then.
Yes, one of the very few. I started programming in 1979
Ah,
as a
yes.
programmer. So
Yeah.
before the personal computers on
Yeah.
mainframes, fourth generation languages, yes. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about that in a little bit and how that works. So I'm going to tie everything together, and this has to do with coming into magic and being able to, as Dr. Miller says, use imagination, thought, to move into that. And I hope to get to the end point, if you follow along, where I was able to, at a point in create through magic and a triad of crystal dreamers using our astral bodies on the other side. We'll get to that. And I was able to manifest or create almost 5 tons of crystals. And Wayne, we'll go onto the website and everybody can see
I
if they
have that.
watch.
In fact, while you're talking,
Just
I'll go
put it
ahead and
up.
pull that up. Yeah.
Hmm. And it was just fascinating journey. And I'll talk about that and how we were able to do that as well in my journey. So as a young child, as you know, we talk about it quite often about how our connection is very strong to our dream world and to our something else we're connected to, and when we go to sleep at night, and our imagination and how that all works as children. And when we're born, we're programmed, or we're programmed to believe, and they start very young to start telling you about, oh, stop daydreaming, with your imagination as child, when they want you to focus, and especially when you're in classes and different things with adults, right? And they always want you to stop to do, to daydream and use your imagination a lot of times. So, but we are programmed for the time of birth, for sure, within the system. And some of the things that I did as a child and being aware of awake that I understood very young was about my dream life. I had two separate lives that I've done my whole life. So I've lived on this world or plane of existence. And when I shifted, and we'll get into how to do that. Dr. Miller talks about it again, about getting into the zone and about all of that in the Navy SEALs and athletes and how they do it. And children shift very easily because we're not programmed to resist it, right?
Right.
So, and move out of the way. So as a child, I shifted very easily and I dreamt very easily. And I was always connected to solid to that plane of physical existence still on the other side of the veil that we go to when we dream. So I've always been aware of that and very conscious of that ever since a child. So I used to love going to bed to dream at night. It was my other life and just as real. And so I was quite aware of that very early as a child.
By the way, just to interject on that, you may have heard me during this week.
Hmm.
I actually had someone write to me, are do I believe in eternal life, that we're internal beings? And I said, the most distinct dream I have was at 5 years old. And I can remember waking up from this life. And it was a very weird type of thing. And anyway, so I happen to agree with that.
Yes, and I did the same thing as a child, being very aware of that, conscious of being consciousness or kind of awake, as you would say. And I remember one of the things that stuck with me as a very young child was the statement about mind over matter.
Mm.
And I started practicing that as a very small child and how this would work, this mind over matter and being able to create things. And you're going to laugh. I have to make a point of this because Rex Bear said something the other day because everybody watches the same channels and he said it and then he laughed at himself. But it was so true. And it's about the risk game. Now, you see, I'm quite a bit older than Rex. And the risk game came out when we were teenagers. Okay, I was
Yes,
about
I remember it.
17 or 18, and my brothers and I used to play it constantly. And we used to last in battles for days. But my siblings used to always accuse me of cheating because I would win every game that we ever did using mind over matter and as a young person. And didn't matter what we did, but even risk, I would make the dice roll double sixes constantly using my mind and energy that I could see and feel because of different things. And so, Rex, it's true. So they used to hate playing with me. And one event when we were 18, we got into this game, and I had everybody in such a spell of my rolling as you with a dice that my brother, who also is a master number 22, as well as myself, he jumps up and you know how he breaks the spell? He jumps up, grabs the risk board, and completely rips it in half. And that, of course, broke the spell.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
So it was interesting that Rex realized that, and he said that the other day. I had to comment on that because that was a long time ago. We used to play those, games. That was before computer games, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm glad you bring that up because today, the video games, the interactive virtual reality now is where we would have the opportunity to literally go outside and work our bodies with our imagination. Mm-hmm. Today, it's unfortunately the mind has become the center focal point on that. And I think we're seeing much of the results of that in our society.
Yes, we'll definitely get into that when we get into more of the technology side of information that I can share being a part of that. So back to a childhood. So as a childhood, very young, and I say these things because our audience are up to the point where the information will get to the point about astral traveling as a group and meeting on the other side. But you already know what I'm talking about as far as dreaming and we'll talk about athletes because I was an excellent athlete as a person growing up, even into adulthood, and played international sports and hold records in it because I could get into the zone. And we'll connect that up with what Dr. Miller says about training the Navy SEALs and being able to get into the zone and what that means. And that's all connected, right? It's all connected. So if you can get into the zone and shift your awareness and let your physical body um, function on its own, because it does anyways at the basic level of nature, and which is your breathing and things you don't have to watch, but your thinking body and part of your knowing and astral body, you can actually step aside and function from that side, and there's a separation, and let your body do it. It does its thing automatically while you're controlling it from another energetic side with energy, and it's has to do with our energy fibers. When you get enough energy, and we'll be able to talk about that and seeing energy and seeing our luminous eggs, as I would call them, and how that all ties in together with our assemblage points from our navel area. So we'll get into that as far, because as people know, and Rex mentioned it, if anybody does any astral projections and flying, as you know, you're usually attached with one of your fibers, right? And right, that's how you stay connected when you go to the other side of the veil. And your fibers are all connected from your assemblage point at birth, which come out from your navel area, right? And the
Okay.
reason why we feel from that area, that's because that's where all of our energy comes together. And that's why you get the people say about gut feelings and butterflies. That's where we feel our butterflies. That's where we feel our sick feelings in our stomach. Emotions or feelings. Everybody says from the heart, but it's not. It actually starts in your midsection at your assemblage point, it's called. And that's where all your luminous fibers all meet together and spread out towards the fibers in the web of the energy of the world. And hopefully, when we get to the point, everybody that's here, they're at the point of understanding and being able to get to the point of seeing, creating their energy bodies. And I hope we get to that point and be able to see the energy of the world, what it truly is,
You
other than
know,
what we see. So I'm hoping when we take this journey as a group, I think everybody's ready.
that'd be interesting. There have I can remember back in the day when
Hmm.
I was part of a group that were participating in a licensed study on LSD.
Hmm.
And one of the sessions we had was actually doing a group astral projecting. And it was very interesting um, because what I found is when you start interacting with other people's energies, it can sometimes almost be almost like overwhelming the fuse box. It was very intense as far where I remember it from.
Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. But when you learn, you can use those energies in a group, and you probably did your group activity with the people physically present with you and not
Yes.
on the
Yeah.
other side of the internet.
No.
And we'll get
No.
we'll get into that. I'll get into that as well. I hope we'll get to that point. But right now we're just talking about energy and what everybody knows and feels. So we know about getting into the zone because everybody has been athletes or done sports or something else that's simple that people have done, and I've done it lots, I'm sure. You ever? I used to drive a lot because I've always lived outside of the cities for a long time now, where in the country or the wilderness, where very restricted internet and everything. But I used to drive for a couple hours a day into the city to my professional drive job. And when you drive a long time and it's back roads, and it was 2 hours a day. When you drive sometimes and you're driving, you're letting your body drive, you're shifting your awareness. I'm traveling other places. I'm not even with my body and my car driving, and I'm all astral projected somewhere else and I know where I go. Most people have done that. You ever drive down a stretch of the road, all of a sudden you come back in your body and you wake up and you don't remember the last so many miles, but you've already passed the marker? You've traveled a distance, right?
Yes,
You come
indeed.
back into your body, and your body's been driving and watching, but you haven't really been there, right? You come back in and you wonder, oh my God, where I just drove all that distance. Well, you've shifted yourself, right? And you've left your body, right? You've left that
It's
part.
interesting you mentioned that. I was a road warrior because I was in sales and I
Mm.
had 5 states I had to cover. And, I listened to a lot of Brian Tracy, Errol Nightingale, Zig Ziglar. And one of the things that, just as you were saying, you could actually get into a meditative state that does transcend current space and time, does it not?
Yes. So
Yes.
interesting. Let's do the current space and time, right? And it transcends that because you've moved your awareness or shifted it to that plane of existence just beyond the veil, I call it, of what seems to be permanence. But I think it just seems to be permanence on that side because I live half my life there as well. That's what in both worlds just as much. That one's even more real for me than actually this world here. It's more of a holographic matrix and different things over here for me. But so yeah, so on what was I just saying? You talked about
Actually being able to astral project while you were driving.
yeah, no, it was something else about the point of that. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
That's all right. It happens.
Um,
By the way, we're looking at your photographs on your website of
oh
just,
yes. Hmm.
I mean, 5 tons. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, it is. No, no kidding. And it's not all
Yeah.
of it. I
Yeah.
had tons of it buried as well, and we'll get into that.
Okay.
So, with the being able to set aside, yes, about getting into the zone and about all that. Hopefully, we'll cover all of that and get into that. It was important what you had said a comment, Wayne, but we'll get back to it. That's fine. So yeah, so as a child, I was aware of all this, and as a teenager and growing up, and what you'll see, being aware of the other side, and you'll understand the bleed through of who you are and the information that you carry with you when you travel. It never changes. You don't change on the other side of where the permanence is. That's what we were talking about, cycles. And with the permanence being a physical plane still, it seems to be permanent, but I think it just their cycles are very much longer than ours. So you can't gauge time on the other side, right? Time is so easy on this side because time is just has to do with change, right? And keeping track of change,
Well, yeah.
which is
Yeah.
all the time. So
I
yeah.
think we have the misconception that time in the spirit realm is based on a sun that's going around with a planet predicated on a 24-hour rotation. And
No, yeah, it's true, but not at all. Like it has such
exactly.
a permanence on the other side.
Yes.
So so when we're on the other side, we have such remembrances of I find of who you are, what you know, information, and you carry this information from lifetime to lifetime. And as we talk, you'll can see. So I'm talking about as a childhood of being aware and being a dreamer, being aware that I'm a dreamer. At 18, very young, 79, 80, I started programming as a computer programmer, and that was my field, which ties into the crystals, as you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't need to get into details because everybody knows that I think communication has to do with crystals. When we start with crystal radios and we
Yep.
use the crystal watches for keeping time. All computers are based on crystals and silica and gold, and we're still using it as a means of communication today. And not only that, I find it quite interesting no matter what you look at as far as futuristic sci fi movies, TV, doesn't matter what you look at, it's always crystals. You ever notice that?
Yes.
Using crystals for everything, powering their ships, for energy, for teleportation, dilithium crystals for this and that. Yeah,
Well,
it's
the
always
movie that the Infinity Wars,
mhm.
with the Justice League was quite interesting. I mean, that had so much intermixed of some Sumerian legends, and then but it was the 5 stones, the 5 crystals.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. So I think it might be of importance, actually, all
I
of
think it is.
that.
And by the
And
way, I'm just showing some of your rocks that you had sent
mhm.
me. Some of this
Yeah.
beautiful amethyst.
Amethyst. Yeah. And
And you
amethyst.
actually you actually mined this yourself, right?
Yes, I do actually. I've been a hard rock miner for over 30 years, actually, and have mined a lot of North America, mostly in Ontario, Canada, but no everywhere in the States and in the jungles. And we can get into the jungle trips. And so I spend a lot of times in the mountains and forests and mostly in the bush
So, are you
prospecting.
a trained geologist that
No, believe it or not, my professional training is with information technology and the crystals that way. And that has been my field. And we can get in, it's kind of important and all ties in. And my titles have been computer programmer analyst. I've been, of course, network administrators, trainers, records specialist. I've been an information analyst. And because it has been my field for over, almost 40 years now.
so
So my professional, so the my mining and the crystals all tie into my past life of knowledge and information that I carry from lifetime to lifetime, all the way back to I'd have to go. Most of my dreaming and information that I learned and tied everything together was brought to me together with a group of awake people in the 90s that I was a part of. And we'll get into that about the cycles, Wayne, because you'll understand that about the cycles that we're in today as well. And so I started mining in the late 80s, early 90s, along with this group of people that I had the most interesting time to be with, as far as a group that I traveled with, as far as um,
so what
I'll
got
tell you
you
what they were. We'll have to talk about them
yeah,
in a minute. Yeah.
so what got you involved and even with the group to start mining crystals? I mean, that's not what most people typically would do.
No. Like, oh, we have to start within there's several groups of that happen. If you know, as far as awakenings or different periods of time where certain things are happening, right? And there
Hmm.
was a big push to make a change within the 60s, which I was a part of as being a child of the 60s, and you were too, Wayne, about that whole information that was trying to be, put out as far as what everybody's looking at now, as far as
It's
what
and
was
can
real or
we
not, like the truth, like what. Go ahead.
yeah, well, I just want to point out, when I look back, and particularly in 1970, um, late 69, there was something that was coursing through, I don't know, our species, you could say our planet, because I can look back now, Karen, and see that the diversity of my beliefs now today, those seeds were planted back then. I mean, there were
Yes.
so many awareness. I mean, I went out and did the sweat lodge, got for a while with the Children of God. Then there was, the Krishna that went through. I mean, there was something unique about that, and I'm seeing it playing a very big role today. So anyway,
Yes, exactly. So I saw it as well as you during the 60s, which planted the seed of what happened for the next cycle, which was actually in the 90s.
hmm
So the next big cycle of awakening or push to the next evolution of thought patterns and perception came about in the 90s.
hmm
And it started late 80s, early 90s. And that became the start of, coincided with the information age, right? Or the age
yeah,
of technology that would, you know,
very
open up.
interesting connection when you look at that. What was happening,
Uh, right.
and
And I was a part of that.
yeah.
So what happened in the early 90s, because remember, I started programming in 1979, 80. So in the early 90s, my career started with the government. Um, I worked for Ministry of Health, which would be part of the mental health division. And I was hired to extract information from large databases to do with mental health. And I met these women, and they were already tracking cycles and patterns of mental health with criminally insane and just all kinds of disorders. So I was within that area for 20 years. And I met these women, and we started quite a project. So I was associated with psychiatrists, psychologists, doctors, therapists. They're all medical professionals, and I was the only IT professional that was in this group that were started of these awake beings. And what we did, the one main colleague of mine, and this was in the early 90s, they formed a group. And like you say, we were doing um, sweat lodges, we were doing drum circles, meditation circles, big groups of channeling, meditation groups, prayer groups. In the 90s, it was just full out to prepare for the millennium, which I was a part of for the whole computer push that way as well. So in the 90s, it was, but we weren't doing it online yet because we were still meeting in big groups physically still. And so it was interesting. It was in, geez, early 90 that I learned about the pole shift, actually, believe it or not. And you know who I learned about that from, believe it or not? Was
Hmm.
and I have to say, Sherry Spears mentioned it, was Cryon, Lee Carroll. His first books came out in the early 90s, and I read them when they first came out. In this group of women, we read them, the first six of them, and I saw him channel live in 1990 or 91 in Toronto, Canada, actually. And he was talking about the things that most people, like we're talking about now, he was talking about in his books back in 91. And so this group of women and I and men, both of all these very awake people, were already watching all of this in cycles and patterns. Okay, and this one colleague and main mentor of mine wrote books about cycles and stress and patterns of stress, and she was a master astrologer. So I apprenticed under a master astrologer for years, and she had done astrology for 50 years. So I'm trying to put in all the who I was associated with and how the programming and everything fits in because I was in part of a kind of an important program. And so, being a master astrologer way back, she also did trends and cycles, and she was known as the world's leading expert in cycles. And you have to remember that back then in the late 80s, early 90s, we were doing all of this by hand. We didn't have a computer to pump out your charts, right? And your programs and predicting the stock market. She was famous in the stock markets and doing cycles and patterns of the stock market.
Now,
Stock,
was this just a random analysis? I mean,
no.
I write code, so I'm trying to follow you
So do
on.
I write code. Yeah, of
So,
course.
where are we going with the cycles? And I'm trying to pull
Uh,
this in.
right with the women. Well, what she was an expert in cycles and stress. She wrote a book and about patterns and cycles as far as thought and patterns within families and her astrology charts. And what we did was we actually we were able to take the information from her charts from the astrology based on imprints at birth. And what we did was we put those into sine wave patterns in an algorithm that we wrote like a biorhythm program, but corrections. And we're able to map the actual electromagnetic physical imprint of each human being from birth that matched up with their astrology charts. This is what I was involved in. And so when I went to the institute, we were pulling out all this information and records, and I wrote this algorithm that was able to track patterns and cycles of behavior. And she discovered something called a composite factor that intertwined your physical, emotional, and mental states, and it kind of all combined together. So I was kind of involved in this very large project with this group of professionals.
So, what was the end goal for the data? How was it being applied? I'm just curious on that. And
We actually applied it towards mental health groups as far as They used it in women's groups, shelters. The natives loved it for tracking patterns of distress and um, depression and all kinds of mental health issues within patterns and within people. So that within groups, they would do their astrology as well as use our new sort of a biorhythm program about when they were going into criticals within families and members. And we had groups that would use these faithfully, yes, to track this kind of information. So it was really predictable and really accurate, actually. So we were doing this back in the 90s, and it all had to do with the electric universe and knowing that we were electromagnetic beings. You see, I'm tying everything in. So that's where I got into the electric universe because I had to understand the solar phases and everything to do with that as far as this program that we were developing because I developed a software program for this woman and to be used. And the interesting thing that it can be used for as well is tracking. We used to track athletes. We had records by the thousands. We tracked athletes why athletes did poorly on certain days and why they had physical criticals and why an Olympic athlete would uh, win gold medals and then on a certain day when it's really important they fell, or where race car drivers would have accidents or why a horse would win on a triple crown. We actually did the whole Northern Dancer horses because we know their birth and their bloodlines and everything. So we could track when they were having critical issues. So we actually did that with the horses and so with cycles. So I was involved in this and all through the 90s and this group of people. Um,
Okay, so how did this then get into mining? Let's get back to that.
Yes, that all
Yeah,
it's all
'cause-
ties together. Yeah, into
yeah,
mining. So
I'm
with this
trying. I'm
group,
trying.
right? With this group, it also had to do with the computers and the crystals and how that all works together, right?
Hmm.
With my knowledge as far as the crystals. So at the same time, with this group of people and my mentors, there was another group that met up with. We started with the crystals and wanting to use them more. And I
Use them
happened
for what? That's what I'm trying. Yeah, so use them specifically for what?
healing for
The healing.
healing,
Okay.
for meditation, for
Okay.
opening up chakra systems, for
Okay.
aligning your energy systems. Like in our group, we had a naturopath that was a Chinese herbalist, and she did acupuncture with your meridians, and we wanted to use crystals for that.
Okay.
And somebody
So then
that did
that got you into the mining.
electromagnetic frequency as far as that. And I just happened to meet um, people that were fellow miners as well, or they were already mining. It's something I already did. I don't know. They just came into my life naturally. Other people that were mining, and we just
So you
it
just
just started.
now was this up in Canada or was it the United
Yeah.
States?
No,
Yep.
no, no. It was in Canada,
Okay.
and
And
so it
I'm
started.
trying to put the viewer into what y'all were doing because that's, when you
Yeah,
think about mining, how
right.
did you know the strata? Was there an area that was a cave or how did you start harvesting, obviously, we've been looking at your
Hmm.
pictures,
Right.
tons of crystals, it looks
Yeah,
like.
you go out a lot. Like I went out with some mentors that had were miners as well. And so they took me out to a few areas at first, and I got to learn and just about geology. And I spent thousands and thousands of hours in the wilderness and mountains and the bush, like you say, looking at fault lines and veins and just how it works. And we had one friend who was a pilot who used to take us up in a Cessna to look at the big areas geologically overhead where we wanted to look at veins and different geologic occurrences. So read lots of books, of course. I've read tons of information, but it's mostly spending thousands of hours in the bush and mining. Yeah.
So hey, do you
Mhm.
do this now by yourself now when you go out or?
No, I have uh, I guess other miners that I do go with. I have one person here. a miner, fellow miner that I'm with in the mountains here that we do a claim here and there. And I grew up by myself as well. But we used to go as a mining team. There was, three or four of us, sometimes more in groups. We'd meet up as mining. And I
You actually
special,
had a gold mine at one time, right?
yeah, had a gold mine in the mountains in BC as well. So I've
Yeah.
done
How was
gold
that?
as well. Oh,
Did you find
excellent.
any gold in it?
Yeah, actually there was, and had it processed and did gold there as well. Now, as far as the crystals, yeah, they're just really, really nice. I, they were found. The majority of the crystals, the ones that I really enjoyed, and they're came out of hydrothermal pockets, they're called,
Okay.
and they're part of a great big vein of these pockets. And each pocket that I opened was a different color, which was just fascinating. So they ranged from clear to white to pink to yellow to orange to red to I had green to brown and on. And there are special quartz that are clear with capping on, they're called. And if
Yeah.
you go to my site, you can see them
We've
in
been
some of
pulling
the
up all those
well,
pictures.
in the carved ones, you can really see them there, Wayne. They're really unusual crystals.
And
And
this is all quartz, right?
yes, it's all quartz crystals, and
Beautiful.
as you know, they're wonderful to use for um, communication. They're wonderful to use for energy. They're good for dreaming. They're good for to practicing for intent. So I use them a lot. At
So
one
help
time,
us on that because I don't think that I have seen how would one go about, and by the way, Karen sent me a box full of the most beautiful amethyst and crystals that the quartz was just, and I'm showing as you can see,
Mhm.
just absolutely beautiful. So how would one use a quartz in this one? I think is beautiful. There's some of them that's the most beautiful purple, which is my wife's favorite color. She's like, "Oh, I want this one." So, how would we use these in communicating and in activating them? Because to me, there has to be an activation component here somewhere.
um, You could say they're activated already because you have to remember that quartz, they do have an electrical charge. They have the positive, negative. That's why they were used for crystal radios and watches and computers because they
Yes.
oscillate at a certain frequency that never changes. They're piezoelectric, right, which they carry a charge, and they're used in far more things than we think. Just for example, your simple barbecue starter, believe it or not, is a piece of quartz that when it's hit starts and produces a charge and lights your barbecue and your little fire starters and Bic lighters and all of that have a little bit of type of quartz thing that you can click to make a charge. So yeah, so quartz is one of the crystals that do carry a charge and a frequency and a vibration.
Well, and I'm just
So
pulling the box that you have. I have sent
So
this
what
to.
I did, what for me, and I even have, I don't know, I have a couple here. They're on my website, but I have a couple
Oh,
quartz
look at that. That's
crystals
beautiful.
here, but
Yeah.
they're carved heads, but they're dreaming crystals. See, there's a woman and the other one is a man I carved. I don't know if you can see the other one. Anyways,
Excellent.
but they're hand crystals, and I use them for dreaming myself, and I usually put one in each hand and they're usually my power stones and I've used them for a lot of times for intent and putting my energy and or power into them and when I go to sleep at night, not that you go to sleep, I usually have one in each hand and it's so that you can have the focus or intent in your energy and you hold them as markers and the goal is when you leave your body and go to the other side is to try to see your hands in your dreams so that you become aware or awake in your dream in that reality. I mean, it's lucid dreaming, that you're awake, everything that's going on, and you can travel. And go to places and meet up with people. So I find these crystals are certain ones that I have are good for that. I usually, in both hands use them for,
So you
meditation.
actually hold them as you're going
Hold,
to sleep, or yeah, that's very
yeah, because
interesting.
you can put your energy into your hands in your tent, and they help for lucid dreaming. Crystals are good for meditation because the energy in the meditation. They're good for opening up all your chakras, and we can eventually get into all the stones for those if you want and how to use them. We can get into all of that. When I had enough quartz crystals, of course, that I used to make crystal circles, which are really important if you want to astral travel or use it energy and use the magic of crystals. I used to
So
make
you
big
actually made
crystal
a circle.
circles. No,
Wow.
like big circles, like you make 6 to 8 foot circles. And then I have big 10, 12 pound point circles that are my anchor stones, I call them, from each direction. And I would have them for the northeast, south, and west, and then quartz crystals connecting all the way around the whole circle. And you use that energy of the quartz circle and you enter in one end direction. And if you know your directional sign that you go
The
by,
cardinal point. So let me ask
for
you,
yourself, then you can use the energy of the circle and the crystals to astral travel and to go to the other side,
so you
especially
put the
if you're
crystals in
vulnerable.
actually touching the ground and
Yeah,
making
you
your
make you
circle?
make a circle outside.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
so you're
right. So
making, like, how I guess in other that make a salt circle for protection, or you
mhm.
make circles.
Well,
There's
actually I was
they
thinking of
and
Tesla, but
Tesla, natives use circles, but
well,
so the same thing. I used to make big crystal circles for energy to
oh,
use.
I can imagine now. I'm thinking here, Karen, as you're
Mhm.
talking, that that would be a powerful resonance to be inside with the activation of those crystals to the Earth electrical circuit. I mean,
Very
um,
powerful, and
yeah,
I
I
use them
bet.
for astral traveling. Actually, I take my anchor stones with me. That's how important they are. And I'm out west, and so I have my west stone from my circle. It's a huge 12-pound point,
Well,
and it's actually one of my from a big hydrothermal pocket, and it's my West Point anchor stone for my circle, and I carry each of
does
my
put us in
point.
perspective with our puny little stones. I mean, now that one I can quite
No, but
imagine.
it's my one main stone for the West, though, you see.
So you can,
So
how much does that weigh?
that's about 12, 15 pounds, that one.
Yeah, that
So yeah, it's my one, and you're right. So that's exactly what you use crystals for.
very
So I use them
interesting.
to gain and use energy and for traveling to the other side. And I
So if
think that's
someone was wanting to build
mhm,
a circle, a quartz
mhm,
crystal circle, as you were,
mhm.
what would be the cost of that? I mean, saying that we're not a miner. Now, do you connect them all together or do you space them out? How do you,
No,
uh,
they're connected.
they're connected. Okay.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I have enough where that wasn't a problem.
Yeah. I
Of
mean, when you
course.
got 5 tons, I
Yeah,
mean,
so
I can
it's
see
not a
that.
wasn't an issue for making circles, out in the wilderness, right? So
But this brings
so
up a very good important point, Karen, because,
mhm.
so often most people are, they feel themselves fortunate to be able to have, just a piece of, you know, um,
Mhm.
crystal quartz. In this case, this is amethyst. And when you begin to think about, see, I'm going somewhere with this,
Okay.
to be able to build a quartz crystal, to me, that would be interesting enough to actually invite people to participate in a meditation event. I want to talk to you more about that because, what I'm getting some point to this. I mean, you think about this, um, we may not be able to buy enough crystal for each of us to have a crystal circle, but imagine if you could actually go to a place where you could actually participate in that. I think there's a lot to that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. There's probably places that might have. You're right. I
I don't know
probably
of any. I'm
haven't
talking
messed
about.
with
I think it'd be a
the
great idea for you.
yeah, 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 yeah. It
No, I'm
could.
serious.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You
I'm going to do something with the collection. It's mostly to share at this point, and I do want to share my crystals with the community. I
Yes,
guess that's
we've been
why
looking at your website
I
up
came
there.
on partly, Wayne. And so anybody that's part of the community or the group, just email me about crystals and just let me know what you would like to use it for, what ideas you might have, or and I'll send you something. I'll pick something out appropriate. No charge for our group, Wayne. This is free.
Wow,
All the crystals
folks.
are free. You can pay for shipping, maybe. I'm not sure,
Yeah, let's. I think that would be worthy. I mean, paying for shipping
um,
is.
and just to let you know, because I don't know how much time we have left, I can get into programming crystals.
Yes, let's talk
Because
about that right quick. Let's talk about that. How would one go about programming
well,
crystals?
you see, I programming crystals is done. It's the way I know how to program. It's through a vibration or frequency. It's like throat singing. There's no words. It's a vibration.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the natives, and I'm very it's something that was brought back with me through information through myself and my higher self on the other side. So I've always learned how to do that. I've always been a crystal programmer, a crystal keeper, a record of information. That's why I've been trying to tell my background. I am a keeper of information, of records. I've traveled with Quetzalcoatl for 7 sojourns, back with Thoth. I've been crystals. That's why I have them. And two of my other crystals were people were crystal dreamers. We worked in a crystal triad, and most of the crystals in these certain pockets of color pockets that I have of each crystal were dreamed on the other side beforehand. So we would dream in crystal dreams, the three of us, and the importance of a triad. I don't need to go into that about, within all religions about your Father, the Son, the triad, right? So there was
Mm-hmm.
three of us, and we would meet on the other side, okay, in dreams and with our astral going in energy to where our energetic bodies are and travel and dream and create the crystals were shown on that side and created on that side, and then we would find them after.
Can you, as a programmer, actually energize crystals and then send them to other people where that would
Yes.
be activated?
Yes, that's why I'm saying most of my crystals, remember, they all have been ethically hand mined by me. Like I said, most lots were dreamed into
Mm.
existence. That's why I have all the colors. So every time we would get together, we would go into our dream states, into our dream bodies that night, and meet up on the other side and create a dream and say, okay, let's create some clear crystals with red capping. Wouldn't that be cool? Some red crystals, or let's do pink crystals, or next time let's do some yellow ones. And so we would have these dreams that, like I said, they're real. It's more real on that side than and
Mm-hmm.
then I would find them. I would open up these big pockets, and lo and behold, and within a week or two, there would be a big pocket worth 500 pounds of yellow crystals, or
Interesting.
200 pounds of red crystals, or pink,
Now,
and
see,
they're the
that's what
ones
I
that I
find.
carve. Hmm.
You could actually be, was it, you felt yourself just kind of pulled to the spot and there
Oh
they,
yeah. Oh yeah.
wow.
Like it doesn't matter where I go. I can go and walk around, and I can go right into any place and pull out crystals, gems, fossils. It doesn't matter what it is because
Can we dig a
they let.
little bit into what you said that the ethical
Mhm.
part of mining the
Yes.
crystals?
Hmm.
So tell me if I'm wrong here. What I'm sensing is that there is a, how do I say it? I'm not saying that they are, well, maybe I am saying that they're connected. And the person coming in harvesting them, I think the intent and the energy of the person pulling them out would be critical at that point, would it not?
Yes, it is. And the family, I wanted to have the crystals because the crystals grow in pockets or families of energy, and I pulled these out in big pockets that were growing together. The crystals
Interesting.
themselves as well. And you're right. Why I say ethically, I mean, I haven't used chemicals, they're not blood diamonds and all those things. I've not blown, using equipment, nothing. These were easily given up by the earth herself to me in pockets, easily,
See,
ethically hand mined and created on the other side with two other crystal dreamers. And the reason why I mentioned the group that I was with and the importance of the 90s, my mentors in the sorcery group that I was part of, I was the youngest in the group, and I'm pretty well the only one left on this side. They've journeyed on to the other side already, my group.
I am really sensing here, Karen, some real Rhema, the coming forth. I am sensing that when you pull these out, that there is I can see where there can be a resonant energy force to that. And I could also see where the crystals would be more willing, if I could use that term, to share that frequency, share that um, thing that they do best in transmitting energy.
Hmm. And
And I'm just
receiving.
showing some of the ones that you sent me. They're just
Yeah. So
absolutely.
yeah, so I can program them and share about programming. You can try yourself too. Just like I say, try throat singing. It's like a vibration within your throat. Who I caught doing it? Again, that Mr. Rex Bear, I'm telling you, I saw a video and he was in some cavern or something doing some kind of he was doing and I know what he was doing. It was from Toth and from the old books and everything. But basically,
Hmm.
believe it or not, he was doing a type of vibration that's used in crystal programming.
Well, I
And
take
it
mine in
was
the shower, and
it was used
with
way back in the time of the Atlantean times and the Toth and with Lord Toth, and that's how long I've known about crystals and energy and carry that information with me from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime as a
so
crystal keeper.
frequency, one's own vibration would have an activation. I guess would be almost on a personal level because we
Hmm.
all generate a different frequency.
Hmm. Yeah, so the crystals can start off with a certain programming or vibration and help people that need alignments, right? So the energy can be transmitted to the person, or the opposite. If the person's strong enough, you can program it and give the information. So it can receive or give the information, just like computers are doing, and we can. Well, hopefully, we'll get into all of that as one show as well, or something. If
Yeah,
you
yeah,
want to
I
get
think we can.
if you want to get into the whole technology thing and about God and the ether and how it was, how we rolled it all out and your whole concept of that. Because remember, that hasn't changed. And what I've known for a long time, and other people will agree, we've just replicated it, okay? Back in Atlantean and the pyramids, there were energy stations with crystals in the middle, and the capstones were gold most of the time for as the capacitor, just like we use for the energy. And the obelisks that you see were the repeaters, right? And just like we've just replicating it on the same scale. We're using crystals, we're using computers, silica chips, gold in the computer systems, and our towers are the obelisks. It's just the same thing. We were just replicating it on a different scale. It's exactly the same setup, and we're moving towards the same point in time with the information and technology. Am I not correct, Wayne?
Oh, I'm sitting here, and I think the thing that I'm going to be walking away from this encounter together, Karen, is the fact of actually being able to get these crystal activations. Um, there's something here that needs
Mm-hmm.
to be looked at more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's even worth traveling to because if you can actually become immersed into that, wow, it could actually lead to some places that would be remarkable.
Mm-hmm. For
Just
sure.
this is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And I do want everybody to have crystals and to use them and to practice with them. Or, we can talk about, future astral travel and
I
lucid
love that
dreaming
idea.
and just about how all that works, if you'd like.
So I'm on your website. Is your email address on here, or would you like it
Yeah.
to?
No, no, it's
Okay.
there. You can just go into about
About?
the about
Okay. Contact. All right,
contact.
folks. Here it is right here.
Just
Um,
go
there's
there.
there's
Yeah.
Karen.
Yeah.
And folks,
And just you go to my carvings and they'll see what I mean, Wayne, quick about these special crystals that work with the colors with the red cappings.
Look at this,
See what I mean?
folks.
Yeah,
And
it's one of
I
my
just wanted to,
carvings, a pendant.
let's see if we can,
But if you go to shop, go to the shop page quick,
okay. Oh,
because
did you do these carvings?
yes, yes. So I ethically hand mined everything. I hand carve them myself, and I carve faces. They're all in meditation. If you noticed, all my faces, they're meditating. I draw,
This is
carve
exquisite,
wizards.
Karen. Just exquisite.
That yeah, there's meditation stones on the site. That's a pair of dreaming crystals that I have that I just
Right
finished
here.
for sale. Those two, yeah,
Oh,
it's a female and a male. They're from my green hydrothermal pocket, and they're green
wow.
capped, and they were dreamed into existence. I have this special fat pocket was amazing. That one's amazing for dreaming, and they're two dreaming crystals exactly the same size, and they're all green and orange on the outside, and
How do you come to carve the faces? They're each one is different.
they're all
Just,
different. I see
yeah.
people and
Wow. This
I
one I
see
really like.
that's a wizard. That's a double terminated. That's big. That crystal is
How much you want?
oh like
We'll talk about this.
eight
I
eight
may
inches.
want to purchase this one from you.
This one's already gone.
Oh, well,
It went to a fellow miner. Yeah.
if we get
So
another one that's like that,
actually I can do a wizard for another one, a double. Yeah, but they're and like I said, so can you imagine the energy that I put into carving these and my energy that goes into and I'm doing is exposing and taking away what's already there. These people to me exist in the crystals. They just they're
these
there.
are just
They're there.
absolutely fantastic.
And so and I have like there's a huge dodecahedron garnet there, that one pendant. It's
Right
huge.
over
It's a
here.
yeah, I got it out of a garnet trench in the Grenville front and was pulling them right out of the trench. Huge garnets.
Wow.
That garnet is I think I had the weight at 23 some grams or something. It's huge. It's
I'm
but
trying.
I have some of everything, and I have a huge fossil collection. I have hematite, clear quartz.
Really?
I've got calcite. I've got everything. I haven't even posted most of my pictures. That's not my whole collection. I got tired of taking pictures. I have my collection when I was doing it. And I'm not a very good picture taker. I'm just learning how to take pictures, so I apologize. I'll get better at
Oh,
it.
don't apologize for anything. Well, folks, here is the email.
So,
Go
yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
No, no, you go ahead, Wayne.
No, I was just going to say, I think that your offer has just, it's more than generous. Folks, if you're serious, I don't know of another
Yeah.
place that, another
Oh,
channel that where you could go to, someone is saying, I will give you some crystal quartz. I mean, come on. That's,
something special from the collection. I have them
wow.
all here ready to go, Wayne, in boxes. I got all little gold boxes. If you want to see, I hold them up.
Sure.
I've
Let me get out of
no,
here and
no, it
we'll
doesn't
put you,
matter. But
this
well,
is
yeah,
just wonderful.
yeah. And I'll get more of my. Hope I have enough. But I've got them all in nice little gold
Oh,
boxes
look at
ready to
here,
go.
folks.
And yeah, and so yeah, so just
Wow.
email me and we'll get together and we can talk about, what it is you might want to do with it or, and
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
just one if you need a little collection because, yes, back in the day we did build things to go in with, I have a collection of the range of what you need from amethyst, ametrine to jasper for each of the chakras and, for colors or so I'll send more than one if you need it, a collection and, I'm fine with that. I
What I've
just
learned from you,
want to share
Karen,
the collection.
already is this, is that I think that this gives us a veil of protection. It can
Hmm.
be used in healing. I think in this day and age, when they're using so many things against us, is that this is Mother Earth's way of saying, hey, kids, there is a way that I can help you through this. And it's people such as yourself, as you have said, as a record keeper and understanding the crystals and the knowledge that transcends this physical plane, that's important.
Yes, thank you, Wade. And I apologize, everybody. I was a little scattered, a little
No, it's all
nervous,
right. That's all right.
um, but if we talk again, we can
We
get
will.
into more of the crystals, and I can get into the very scientific if we want to talk,
Good.
about uses, classification, how they form, special things, ones, really
Well,
scientific,
Karen, I
more about
think you've
crystals and
just
geology and that kind of stuff if you want.
harvest yourself some great karma. The adage is true, the idiom, give and it shall be given back unto you, that's
Well,
cool.
Wayne, it was really given to me. Mother Earth gave it to me as usual. It was, I mean, how did I get so much? And it was in such a short period, like I said, and it was dreamed into existence to give to people that are ready to use it to whatever they need to use it for at this
Excellent.
time. And I think anybody who's come to this channel and some of the other ones that are connected, I see the same people. It's for a
Hmm.
reason. You're at a point where you're all looking for the same information, the same knowledge, and it's not by accident or by coincidence that people stop by your channel, Wayne. And we
Well,
are all becoming persons or man of knowledge or whatever you want to call, and becoming very aware and connected together as a family and
I
to
feel
getting to the same point, of understanding.
I felt very fortunate and humbled to have uh, a master teacher such as yourself coming in and sharing the knowledge, and not only sharing the knowledge, but sharing physical, tangible substance. And folks, you should do this. I'm going to be posting this back up here. And Karen, I don't know how long you're wanting to keep that offer up there, but this is very generous. If you're serious, folks, do this. Yeah, I think you'll really. Um, I'm just trying to look at this in the
I
chat.
wasn't able to read chat at the same time just because of what it did to the system, so I apologize. I
No,
don't,
no, no,
I
no,
wasn't
no,
able to
no.
read chat.
I
So,
just want to say hi to Suji. She was here. Thanks to all the moderators.
oh,
Um,
Suji, she's still here.
yes, is
Oh,
Sue,
say
you still
hello. Oh,
here?
oh, say
Um,
hello. Yes.
yes, I think she was here. And Sue, you ought to get in touch with Karen. You two could definitely have some fun on this one. No doubt about it.
Hmm.
All right, my lady. Well,
All
thank
right.
you for just an entertaining hour.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. It's been a knowledgeable hour. And I'm sitting here now. I'll just tell a little story here. When Karen sent me this, we have it all through the house. I mean, everywhere you go, we have these crystals, and it's in our bedroom. It literally is all on the bedpost and what have you, and it works. It does. That's all I can say. The dreams have never been bad, Karen. I'll
Oh,
put it
good.
that way. They've always been great.
Well,
Well,
hopefully they've helped.
they have. Again, we'll have you back on because I think we're onto something here. Folks, be good to yourself. Suji, definitely get in touch with Karen. Like I said, I can see y'all two both doing a show together. Sue, I put her email address on her website, which is what? What is the name of you? I'm going to pull it up real quick so everyone sees. Well, let me just share it one more time. Is that all right, Karen?
Oh,
Keep you
yeah.
just to
Oh, no,
keep
go
you up
ahead.
here. So,
I'm good.
Sue, here you go. There we go, folks. There's the website, and here is how to contact her, Queen of Quartz at netspectrum.ca, which I think is Canadian to all of
Correct.
our friends north of the border. So,
Hmm.
all right, my lady. Well, thank you, madam. Thank you,
Oh, yes.
everyone.
Thank you, Wayne. It's just been a pleasure and wonderful to be on, and I'm just so excited to be part of this group and the connection. It's just
I
a
think we just
wonderful
got
family.
plugged in, folks. I think we just
Yeah.
found a great energy source. All
Yeah.
right, folks. Go ahead.
We'll connect on the other side. Everybody will get a crystal, and then we'll be able to actually meditate and connect everybody, and we'll meet as a family on the other side.
We're going to do this. I'm telling you, folks. When the people get the crystals,
Hmm.
I think we ought to do a an hour show, and because then we have something that's all connected.
Hmm.
And I will tell you, I will be honored to host that. That would be pretty cool. Maybe have you on, Sue, Sherry, and some others.
Yeah,
And
Sherry would be great. Sherry's
yeah.
good with the crystals and things
All
too.
right, folks. See where we're going with this? Okay.
Okay. Night,
Stay tuned.
everybody.
Good night, everyone. We'll see you definitely on Sunday over on Jeff's channel and then back on Monday. All right. Have a great weekend. Karen, stay on here a little bit after we go
Okay.
off. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Bye bye, folks. See ya.